The law should be a pillar of logic, a majestic foundation separating civilization from chaos. But sometimes this pillar supports a clown car. Deep within the legal codes of the USA, beneath layers of serious tax and property laws, lie surprisingly strange and nonsensical laws. These laws are so weird and absurd that it seems as if they were written on a dare. We are not talking about old rules, but pure legislative absurdity. Prepare to reconsider everything you knew about common sense, because we are starting a review of the 50 dumbest laws in America. The first law. In Ohio, it is forbidden to intoxicate fish. Bad news for those who planned a refined underwater wine tasting for their goldfish. Originally, the law was probably intended to prevent water pollution by alcohol, but the wording creates a funny image of a fish inspector with a breathalyzer. The question arises sharply: what is the permissible level of alcohol for a big fish? And can it stop in time? The second law. In Kentucky, it is forbidden to carry an ice cream cone in your back pocket. This sounds like a classic case of government overreach aimed at bad taste in clothing. But in fact, this law is an old safety measure. In the past, when horses were stolen, the thief would put a ball of ice cream in the pocket. The horse would follow him, licking the cone, allowing the animal to be led away without touching it. This strange 19th century law was actually a device against horse theft. What seems silly is actually a smart security measure. In Connecticut, a pickle is not considered real unless it bounces. This is not a joke, but a law passed in 1948. 2 pickle manufacturers were arrested for selling inedible pickles. For the court, an official stated, "A real pickle must bounce from a height of 30 centimeters." Their pickles simply flattened. The bouncing pickle test became a legend, a symbol of quality control, and a victory for pickle lovers. Some laws protect us from very specific smells. In Nebraska, barbers are forbidden to eat onions from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening. In South Dakota, it is forbidden to fall asleep in a cheese factory. This law is a wonderful combination of public safety and fairness towards cheese. On one hand, being unconscious near heavy equipment is dangerous. On the other hand, imagine the disrespect if someone dozed off next to perfectly aged cheddar. Wisconsin is famous for its cheese and rivalry spirit. If you are not careful, you might be told to buy your cheese somewhere else. This reflects the pride of Wisconsin's greatest rival in dairy products. In Nevada, riding a camel on highways is illegal. This strange law comes from an unusual period in American history before the Civil War, when camels were tested for desert transport. The U.S. Army once tried using camels to carry loads in deserts. In the state, a person must own at least 2 cows to have the legal right to wear cowboy boots in public. This is the highest form of agricultural control. Such a law is directly addressed to city dwellers who believe that simply wearing Lee's boots makes them real frontiersmen. The message is clear. A cowboy is not a fashion statement, but a profession. If you want to wear boots, you need real support in the form of livestock, that is, cows. In Texas, it is illegal to milk someone else's cow. At first glance, this seems like an obvious rule, like prohibiting stealing a neighbor's car. But the fact that this law was officially written indicates that unauthorized milking of cows was a real problem. It creates a vivid image of a time when the most valuable property was livestock, and a neighbor could be a real criminal thirsty for milk. This beautiful, unusually specific rule was created to prevent turning a house of worship into an open mic night. The law preserves sanctity and order in the church. Some laws sound as if they were written by a surrealist artist. For example, why does the state of Arizona forbid a donkey from sleeping in a bathtub? This is not a hypothetical situation. In the 1920s, a farmer kept a donkey who liked to nap in an old bathtub on his property. When a nearby dam broke, the flood carried the donkey along with the bathtub many miles down the valley. The rescue operation turned out to be very expensive and complicated. Lawmakers decided to completely ban such a situation to forever protect the state from surfing donkeys floating in bathtubs during floods. Have there been moments when you were so angry at customer support that you wanted to give them a piece of your mind? In Maryland, you have to be more careful with that. No known story explains this law, leaving us to imagine bizarre bird smuggling rings using hats that once troubled the upper Midwest. Think you are a great fisherman. Have you ever tried catching fish with a lasso? In Tennessee, this is not only hard, but illegal. This law feels like a personal challenge to the most skilled outdoorsman, banning what would be the world's most entertaining and least successful fishing contest. Tennessee's legislation prevents cowboy-style fishing contests, emphasizing the state's unique blend of tradition and law enforcement in outdoor sports. In Tennessee, they considered the theoretical sport of lasso fishing and said, "No, we will not allow this." This is an example of a strange ban in American laws. What is beauty? Poets and philosophers have debated this question for centuries in the town of Wilbur, Washington. The law has already given an answer, especially for horses. In Wilbur, it is illegal to ride an ugly horse. This is perhaps the most subjective law in America, raising many questions about fairness. Who determines the beauty of horses? Is there a committee to evaluate the appearance of horses? Or a fine for a bad-tempered animal? The law is cruel and superficial. This law punishes horses for being born not beautiful enough for the streets of Wilbur. It is a cruel and superficial act of legislation. Laws often reflect the prejudices of their time. In New Mexico, the Constitution prohibits idiots from voting, which is a stark reminder of the past. This offensive expression was common in the 19th century, to deprive people with intellectual disabilities of the right to vote. Although federal laws have long made this impossible, this clause still exists in the state's main document as a relic of a less enlightened time. A deeply satisfying sound when you enjoy hot soup, making a pleasant slurping noise while eating. On a cold day in New Jersey, the sound you hear is not contentment. Instead, it signals a minor crime due to an old ordinance forbidding soup slurping publicly. This law targets the very essence of comfort food culture in a state famous for thousands of diners. It demands silent, joyless consumption of liquid meals. The ordinance enforces a decorum level that soup naturally defies, making the experience of eating soup less enjoyable and more restrained for citizens. In Wyoming, a strange law forbids taking pictures of rabbits between January and April without an official permit, an odd rule still in effect today. The reasoning behind this law is lost to time, perhaps to protect rabbit privacy during breeding or to prevent unusual photographic poaching. Despite the unclear purpose, the law remains, safeguarding rabbits from the paparazzi during their most vulnerable months. Florida law gets very specific about who can do what and when. For example, if you are an unmarried woman who enjoys skydiving, the rules apply to you. In your state, all windows and doors in the bedroom must be securely locked. The logic is this: nighttime sounds should not disturb others and must remain inside the house. This is reminiscent of a time when personal hygiene was mandatory and snoring was considered a threat to public order and had to be restrained. Thinking of a romantic gesture for your beloved? In Idaho, be ready to prove your love with volume and quantity. This is the ultimate catch-all law, a legal tool so vague it could apply to almost any clumsy or unfortunate situation. The Puritans left behind a legacy of intense social rules. In Massachusetts, you can still find echoes of this in old laws. One such law states you must have a full bath before going to bed. But it gets better. Another law from the same era forbids you from snoring. In your state, all windows and doors in the bedroom must be securely locked. The logic is, nighttime noises should not disturb others and must remain inside the house. This recalls a time when personal hygiene was mandatory and snoring was considered a threat to public order and had to be restrained. Thinking of a romantic gesture for your beloved? In Idaho, be ready to prove your love with volume and quantity. The law prohibits a man from giving his beloved a box of chocolates weighing less than 50 pounds. A simple box is an insult. Love must be expressed by the amount of sugar that requires the help of several people to lift. It seems the state's dentists support this strict standard of courtship. Is an Oregon fisherman looking for an advantage? Under no circumstances use canned corn as bait when fishing for trout. The ban specifically concerns canned corn, not worms or artificial lures. This is a very specific rule. One wonders what canned corn ever did to the Oregon Fish and Game Commission to receive such specific legal disapproval in their regulations. New York City is a global fashion hub, yet it has strict rules about clothing, especially after sunset, making certain attire illegal in public. Strangely, wearing slippers in public after 10 p.m. is illegal in New York City, a law likely originating from old tenement rules reducing noise. This law reflects a legislator's vivid imagination and deep fear, creating a magnificent but unnecessary solution to a non-existent problem. In Illinois, it is forbidden to give lit cigars to pets such as cats and dogs. This is an important piece of advice for all pet owners in this state. Giving unlit cigars to pets in Illinois is not prohibited by law, but it is clearly not welcomed among dogs at dog parks. The law arose after someone looked at their golden retriever and thought, he needs a good Cuban cigar, which served as a reason for the ban. In Pennsylvania, you can visit a fortune teller, but there is an important condition. Accepting money for future prediction services is prohibited by law. Fortune tellers can read your fate, contact deceased relatives, or analyze tea leaves for free, as this is considered a hobby, not a profession. This law proves that the real power of clairvoyance is the ability to pay rent without receiving money for it. In Delaware, one of the worst grounds for marriage is a drunken argument. The state's laws take this very seriously. Delaware legislation emphasizes that entering into marriage because of a drunken bet is a bad idea and is not welcomed. These strange laws show how diverse and whimsical local norms can be in different states of America. Despite their humor, such laws help maintain order and teach people to think before making rash decisions. In some places, it is forbidden to marry if the proposal was made as a joke or a bet. This happens so often that the state intervened to save people from their own legal jokes. Imagine a court hearing. Your Honor, my client agreed to eternal marriage just as a joke. This reflects how absurd some legal situations can be. We've all panicked when the car starts misfiring and you realize the gas tank was insufficient. In most places, this only leads to embarrassment. In Youngstown, Ohio, the situation is worse. You can be fined for running out of gas within city limits. This law is about punishing poor planning, not blocking traffic. In Utah, it is technically illegal not to drink milk. In Jonesboro, it is illegal to say the phrase, "oh boy." The reasons are unclear, but the law exists. It might be related to an annoying local resident or an attempt to preserve Southern etiquette. In any case, expressing mild surprise in Jonesboro must be done carefully to avoid breaking local law and trouble with authorities. Planning an evening in Baltimore? If you're going to the cinema, you'll have to leave the lion at home. It is forbidden to bring a lion to the cinema in the city. You might be able to bring a dog or a cat, but an adult predator is too much for Baltimore's city rules. One can only guess what commotion caused this law. Perhaps the lion growled at the MGM logo or helped itself to the viewer's popcorn. In the state of Washington, it is illegal to display a hypnotized person in a storefront window. This law is over a century old and aims to prevent deceptive shows. The law was created to fight stage hypnotists and hucksters who used hypnotized displays to attract customers and sell fake remedies in the late 1800s. This legal measure protected people from the captivating and possibly fraudulent effects of public hypnosis, which was a popular entertainment and sales tactic then. The fact that such a specific act had to be outlawed suggests many people did it, making it a real problem at some point. The city of Chicago is famous for its resilience, stunning architecture, and world-class food scene, making it a unique and vibrant place to visit. In Chicago, there is a law making it illegal to eat in a place that is on fire. This rule protects people from ignoring danger while finishing their meals. Imagine a diner so determined to finish his deep dish pizza that he ignores flames, smoke, and sirens. The city had to legally order him to evacuate. In California, it is illegal for a woman to drive a car while wearing a housecoat, also called a dressing gown. A man wearing a bathrobe driving is apparently allowed. This old law from the 1950s saw a woman's comfortable morning attire as a serious threat to road safety. The state legislature had to make it illegal to protect everyone. In New Hampshire, people who enjoy foraging must do it during the day. It is illegal to collect seaweed from the beach at night, according to an old law. Were nefarious, underhanded activities conducted with illicitly gathered kelp under the cover of darkness? Was there a secret black market for nocturnal nori on the coastline? The truth remains unknown. The law protects the coastline from after-hours seaweed thieves, maintaining order and preventing illegal nocturnal kelp harvesting. Enforcement keeps the beaches safe after sunset. Before destroying your old malfunctioning radio out of frustration, know that in Detroit, such destruction is technically illegal. A city ordinance forbids willful damage to radios. This law was not to protect radios, but a Cold War civil defense measure. It ensured every household could receive emergency broadcasts during crises. Though the law sounds silly now, its purpose was smart, though outdated, keeping communication lines open in emergencies for public safety. Florida is like one giant chaotic beach party, making this next law wonderfully hypocritical and amusingly strange in such a lively setting. It is illegal in Florida to sing in public while wearing a swimsuit. You can wear a swimsuit or sing, but never both at the same time. This law effectively stops any chance of an impromptu beachside singing performance, limiting spontaneous musical fun in swimwear. The state seemed to glance at its own reflection and decided, enough fun for today. This feeling captures the strange mood behind some quirky laws. How do you protect the sanctity of an official state symbol? In Louisiana, it is done through strict legal threats and unusual laws. In North Carolina, a peculiar law forbids organizations from holding meetings if all members are in costume. This means that annual Star Trek fan club meetings where everyone wears uniforms are technically illegal. Secret societies of historical reenactors must meet in regular street clothes, not in period costumes. This strange and highly specific rule targets enthusiast conventions and themed gatherings at their very core. If you look at a map of North and South Dakota, you might notice interesting similarities and differences. You may have noticed the perfectly straight line that separates the two Dakotas. For a brief, glorious period, exploding firecrackers on that border was illegal. In the 19th century, both states passed a joint resolution banning firecrackers on the border. Was there a pyrotechnic war between the Dakotas? The true history is lost. The idea of a fireworks ban along the border remains a curious image. It suggests unusual border disputes possibly settled with pyrotechnics, though no records confirm this. Most people consider bingo a harmless pastime, yet North Carolina disagrees. There, a law limits a single bingo session to no longer than 5 hours. This legal limit implies marathon bingo sessions so intense that the government intervened to prevent players from staying too long. It prevents dying of old age waiting for B12. In one of the towns, it is forbidden to wear heels higher than 1 square without a special permit from the city hall. This is not about fashion, but about safety and responsibility. The streets of the town are known for their unevenness and tree roots, which create danger underfoot. To avoid lawsuits, high-heeled shoes were made illegal. To be stylishly unstable, you literally need to get a license. This funny restriction shows how laws can regulate even fashion and behavior. In the state of Hawaii, which consists of many islands, there is an old law prohibiting putting coins in ears. This is not a ban on earrings, but a very specific rule. Perhaps this law arose because of failed coin tricks, or to prevent people from confusing ears with jukeboxes. This is a strange and senseless part of history. What defines an unsuitable beekeeper? Bad attitude? Rudeness to the queen? Is there a personality test for aspiring apiarists before they start honey production? Maine enforces strict advertising laws. For many years, billboards were banned along roadsides to preserve natural beauty and reduce distractions for drivers. Maine also forbids biting your landlord. This unusual law implies past tenant-landlord conflicts that escalated beyond reason, reminding everyone to pay rent and behave civilly. Overall, these laws reflect unique local priorities, from protecting bees with moral standards to promoting peaceful tenant relations and preserving natural landscapes. From outlawed slippers to cowboy boot licenses and a war on ugly horses, these laws reveal strange anxieties and odd obsessions in American history. These bizarre laws are more than funny relics. They capture moments of absurdity that have shaped the country for centuries. They remind us that even serious systems allow room for pure, unadulterated nonsense within their rules and regulations. So, what is the dumbest law you have ever heard of? Whether from this list or your hometown, share it in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey into legislative madness, please subscribe and ring the bell for more unbelievable true stories. We end our journey with a law that targets not a crime or nuisance, but a core human insecurity. In Washington state, it is illegal to knowingly and willfully pretend that your parents are rich. This law is not about fraud or loans. It makes being a poser a misdemeanor, legislating against social climbing. Imagine a world where pretending to be wealthy is against the law, reflecting a unique social value. This strange law highlights how legal systems sometimes address human behavior in unexpected and humorous ways. The fine for saying on a date that your father owns a yacht, when in fact, he just has a very beautiful fishing boat. This is the highest legal weapon against falseness. A state punishment for pretending until you succeed. An absurd conclusion to our review of strange laws. We have reviewed 49 unique laws, and there is one left. But before the finale, it's time to deliver the final verdict. In our opinion, the most incredible law is the ban in Arizona on allowing a donkey to sleep in the bathtub. Why this one? It's not just a strange rule, it's a legislative scar left after one absurd real event. The law was born from a sudden flood, a floating bathtub, and one very confused donkey whose sleep turned into a sea adventure. This case is forever enshrined in law as a warning to all future animals who love baths. Do you agree with our verdict, or does another law deserve this dubious title? Tell us. Write what you think in the comments. And now let's move on to our closing